This is Dominique Wilkins.
Hey, this is Sean Kemp.
This is Gary Payton.
Hey, this is Pau Gasol.
NBA fans, what's up? This is Vince Carter here.
Hey, what's up? This is Matt Barnes. If you're an old school NBA fan like I am, make sure you check out the Basketball Time Machine with my man Sean David.
Good day, guys. How's it going? Welcome back to the Basketball Time Machine. I'm your host, Sean David. Thanks for tuning in. Let's talk some old school NBA basketball. Now, today's episode is kind of special to me. Why? Because I wanted to cover this player for such a long time and never got the chance to do it. But today, well, today's the day. I'm, of course, talking about Clyde Drexler, one of the best players of all time. But in this episode, I want to dive in a little bit deeper and compare him to some of the greatest shooting guards of his era and see how good Clyde actually was. But before we get to that, I want to ask you guys for a quick favor. Please subscribe to the channel and also click on the notifications button so you always get notified once I upload a new video. Alright, enough said. Let's dive right into it. So, how do we start? I would say I will give you a quick summary of his career and then compare him to some of the other greatest shooting guards of his generation, of his era. So let's start with the quick summary. Clyde Drexler played college ball for the Houston Cougars from 1980 to 1983. They would be a vital part of the legendary Phi Slamma Jamma, a team that was known for their up-tempo plays and the most of them ending with a spectacular dunk. One of his teammates was Hakeem Olajuwon, who would later become one of the best bigs of all time. Clyde Drexler was a college star, but at that point of his career was not known to be this incredible scorer, but more of a versatile player that could grab 10 boards a game and stuff the ball on the other side.
That's Reggie's third of the 100 in that department.
He jumped over this kid, and to this day, I still think that is one of the greatest dunks of all time in NCAA history. That was phenomenal.
He took off at the foul line to make Dr. J.
Those were the kind of plays that the real basketball critics didn't like, but we just continued to put on people.
At the 1983 NBA draft, it was not sure which team would draft him since he did not outshine his teammates in college and nobody knew what Drexler was really capable of. So it was the Portland Trail Blazers with the 14th pick who finally selected Clyde. Still rough around the edges, Clyde came off the bench in his rookie season, was averaging 7 points a game, but he quickly showed a lot of progress and became a fan favorite.
Good things were expected out of Clyde when he entered the league in 1983, and the NBA's newest high flyer did not disappoint.
Drexler motoring all the way. Oh! Worth the price of admission. Drexler.
You go back and you look at some of the things he did, those are just incredible physical feats. I mean, I had a lot of talks with Clyde, and I said, you know, there are some times when there are two big guys back there where maybe you can't go in there. And he looked at me and shot. I take what I want.
That's a rebound. Robinson, Courtland pass. Drexler, he's open. He scores!
At times, it seemed like Clyde's incredible highlights overshadowed what really drove Drexler in the game of basketball.
It's good!
The thing that was most interesting about Clyde was not his athleticism that was obvious, but it was his desire to win. I don't think that anyone really understood how much he disliked losing.
Drexler's fierce competitiveness helped make the Blazers championship contenders. And in his 7th season, Clyde led the Blazers to the 1990 finals. But they would lose to their more experienced opponents, the Detroit Pistons.
The following year, he would lose against the Los Angeles Lakers in the Western Conference Finals, and the year after that in the finals against the Chicago Bulls, but more on that later. In 1995, he would finally win his ring with the Houston Rockets. Overall, I can say that Clyde had a great career, winning an NBA championship, but he never won the MVP award or an accolade of this caliber. I just want you to keep this in mind. Now let's compare him to some of the biggest rivals of his era. The first shooting guard I want to match with Clyde is Reggie Miller. Now Reggie is one of the best shooters of all time, and he had some great rivalries against Clyde. But if I had to choose between the two of them, I would go with Clyde Drexler. Why? Well, Clyde Drexler was the better all-around basketball player. Now, of course, Reggie would outshoot Clyde any day, but Clyde was the better rebounder, the better passer, and the more flexible scorer. And on defense, well, I want to say both players were solid but not great, but in this case, I would have to give the nod to Clyde. So when we compare Clyde Drexler to the greatest shooting guards of his generation, naturally we got to talk about Michael Jordan. And with MJ, we had the chance to see Clyde the Glide and MJ both at their peak in the 1992 finals, and this is exactly where we could see the difference between MJ and Clyde. Let's have a look.
Clyde the Glide says we're the two best in the game, but I'm not getting into a war of words with Mike.
Clyde was a threat. You know, I'm not saying he wasn't a threat, but me being compared to him, I took offense to that.
The world, the country wants to see Portland versus Chicago.
And then it became individual competition.
Jordan against Drexler, Clyde against Michael. See, this is what Michael lived for. He wanted this challenge, showing Clyde, not only Clyde, but the world that, hey, I am the greatest, I am the best in the world.
This is the inner thought that I had. This is my motivation. And that's not to get Clyde mad at me if he ever sees this video, but when the game and when the ball's thrown up, it's going to be a differential between the two of us. And I'm going to let you choose which is best.
Michael sideline, he runs right by him. Stop, fires, come on!
Jordan eluding Robinson. Yes! Jordan posting up. Goes to the fadeaway.
I was in a groove, I was in a rhythm that I can't really explain.
Blazers get back. Pippen back for Jordan for three.
I started hitting threes like they were free throws.
There's Pippen setting up Jordan. Wide open again.
The rim seemed like a big old huge bucket.
Back to Michael. That's the fire to three. Another one. That's unbelievable.
And I can't miss it.
Come Michael, three again! No!
Stolen by Pippen. 2 minutes lead. Right to the basket. Stolen Michael Jordan. Jordan with his magic carpet threw it down. He's everywhere. He's everywhere. This place is pandemonium. Ran for the rebound and attacked it. And a Jordan fires another three. Oh no! I don't believe it. 3-pointers from Jordan. What in the world is going on? Here's Jordan for three. Yes! Did you see that one? Michael indicating he can't believe it.
After a while, I just looked at Marv and Magic and those guys. What can I say? I mean, it's not me. It's just a moment.
This is the greatest performance, maybe ever, in the history of this league.
In the 1992 NBA Finals, Clyde did not stand a chance against Michael Jordan. And this was basically the story of their rivalry. Clyde would play well, Jordan would play great. So this one has to go to MJ. Next we have Clyde Drexler versus Joe Dumas, a very interesting matchup because both players were totally different. Clyde was the better offensive player, Dumas was the far better defender. Dumas won 2 championships and Clyde won 1. So this one's going to be a little bit controversial, but I really believe that Dumas was as good and as valuable as Clyde Drexler. Dumas is so underrated, and I mean there is a reason why Michael Jordan said that Dumas was the best defender who he ever played against. And Dumas could drop 25 points if he needed to. I personally value a great two-way player. So this one to me was almost a wash, and even though Clyde might be slightly better, I'm really talking about slightly. And the last player that we're going to compare Clyde Drexler to is Mitch Richmond. Again, one of the most underrated players of all time. So if I had to pick between the two of them, I again would have to pick Drexler, but also again, just slightly. Richmond was the better shooter and the better defender. Clyde was the better passer, the better rebounder, and the more flexible scorer. So this again would be such a close one, it's unbelievable. But I want you guys to let me know what you think. Please post it underneath the comments. So how good was Clyde Drexler in my opinion? Well, as I already said earlier, with Michael Jordan, he was not as good as MJ, slightly worse in every single kind of category. But with the other shooting guards, I think Clyde Drexler is just up there. To me, one of the best shooting guards of all time and definitely deserved to be in the Hall of Fame. And thankfully, he won his championship with the Houston Rockets. So Clyde, you're one of the greatest, no question. So you guys, that was it for today's episode. I hope you enjoyed this video. Do me a favor, hit the like and subscribe button, and I'll see you next time on the Basketball Time Machine.